Welcome. I just realized I started this like maybe 5-7 minutes early, so I do apologize. If you arrive late, you might see this later on the replay. By the way, if you're watching this on a replay, fast forward a couple of minutes because I'm going to say hi to my friends. But before I do so, how about a message from our sponsor, Pipedrive? Pipedrive is the first CRM platform made for salespeople by salespeople. There are 4 things that Pipedrive does extremely well to help your business grow. 1. Manage leads and deals by getting your leads fed straight into your sales pipelines around the clock from your custom chatbot and web forms. 2. Track calls, emails, contact history in order to have full customer visibility and control of your schedule. Eliminate busy work by also automating repetitive administrative tasks that learns from artificial intelligence. Insights and reports are also available so you can do a deep dive into metrics customized for your business and measure company performance against set goals. So go to pipedrive.live/Victor Antonio, sign up and get an extended trial of 30 days free plus 25% off the first 3 months by simply using the promo code Victor Antonio. Again, the link is pipedrive.live/Victor Antonio. Love it. All right. By the way, the description for Pipedrive should be, or the link for Pipedrive should be down there. Also, the link for the board. Everybody keeps asking me about this board. Look at the description. You'll find the links. Anyway, welcome to Sales After Dark, because money never sleeps, right? All right. If you're watching this on the replay, fast forward about a good 4 or 5 minutes because I'm going to say hi to my tribe, and that's the way I kick this off. So basically, I say hi to my folks, we get into some content, and then we do Q&A. So let's see who is in the house. Let me see. Let me just start from the beginning. Who was in first? We got Shrewd Test. Good morning to you. Your last content was dope. That's what I like to hear, that the content was dope. Hey, man, good morning. Right back at you. YP. All right, who else? You got your fist bump there, Carol. Way to hang out. Inkle John in the house. Always present. The value merchant. Never escapes. And, my man Jared Best. Did an interview with him. I'm dying to see that interview. So when you publish it, I'll publish it also on my social media, Jared. I'll give you that extra push, man. But check out Jared Best Mitchell. Again, excellent sales trainer out of Trinidad, Tobago. Can I say Trinidad, Tobago like that? Cool. Also, Elkin Orozco. Hey, Vic, long time online again. Welcome back, my friend. Where you been? Duncan Joy Hamnet. Nice house music. Hope you had a good weekend. I chilled, man, Duncan. I chilled. And then You the Man is back. You the Man, 1K. Good evening. Good evening right back at you, man. Thank you very much. Mia Knox, West Coast in the house. When Mia's in the house, life is always good. Thank you, Mia, for joining us again. Alfredo Maza. Hello right back here, Alfredo. Let me see. We got Debbie Mills. Debbie, hey, Victor. Loved your 4 golden rules for success. Greetings from Ghana. Debbie, is this your first time? I don't remember the names, but anyway, welcome. Glad you're here. Alfredo says, teach me to sell hard, man. We're going to teach you how to sell. Today I got something special again. Michael from Indonesia. Michael G. Masita. Oh, man. Oh, where did this one come from? Holy buckets. Oh, this is special right here. This is a blast from the past. So we got to go back for this guy, Steve Grady, who hired me years ago as a product manager for a company called ADC Telecommunications. I used to report for this guy. So Steve Grady is probably, when it comes to marketing, and I'll just say creative marketing, that guy, his head should explode at any point. So anyway, want to say hi to the sales wizard from the marketing wizard himself. Steve, long time, my friend. We got to chat, my friend. Great to see you. What a surprise, man. Thank you, man. Michael G., we got you again. Good morning. Rod Vidre. Always in the house. You're better than Netflix. I think so, man, but thank you, man. But I just don't make the money Netflix make. That's the only problem, Rod. Sunil Gajad. Happy morning, Sunil from India. And you're in, man. So, when? VA Worldwide, man. Love it, man. Let me see. You got Mike Janice. Where you been, Mike? Missed you, man. Missed you. Steve Grady says, not that long ago. Hold on one second. I got something going crazy here on the side. So anyway. But yeah, Steve Grady, it's been a few years, Mr. Grady, but, Brian was going to miss you. I was like, where's he at? Vegas in the house. Okay, we can officially start the party now. Mike K. All right, wonderful. Hey, Steve, I think you're going to like this one, Mr. Grady. So I think you're going to like tonight's topic. Tonight, we're going to talk a little bit about marketing. Hold that section right there. For some reason, I'm just having like small technical difficulty. I want you guys to see the whole screen right there. But anyway, so the marketing I'm about to talk to, we got more people jumping on. We got Luigi. You know what it is, Luigi, man. Welcome aboard. We got James Shaw in the house. Just found your channel. Thanks for posting from Buffalo, New York. Welcome, New York, man. Love having you here, James. Thanks for joining. Trinidad again in the house, doubling down tonight. We got Angel Ramirez. Always looking forward to your new contest. South Side, Chicago, Northwest Side, Humboldt Park area. That's where I'm from. Always good to have somebody from the hometown. Robert Bursea, what marketing is need for selling services? Man, I think you're going to like tonight, Robert. I think you're in the right place. And then the person who's too lazy to have two different names, he just says, Asimov from Edmonton, man. Hey, Double A, welcome back, man. Greetings from Winnipeg. Oh, northern people in the house today. Love it. So I think I got everybody in here. All right, so let's jump into this because, again, the format is say hi to you guys, do some quick content, do some Q&A. So I thought I'd share what's going on in marketing today, what's changing, and then I'm going to tie it to sales. And so what I want to do is begin with, we're going to talk about this subject today. But so I don't distract you, let me go back to that. So when I was putting my virtual studio together, this studio right here, everything was almost set up. And I remember that my microphone, I'm going somewhere with this story, just bear with me, right? And my microphone was making this humming sound, had this hissing noise, right? And so I started looking for a microphone, right? And so I began this customer journey of looking for a microphone, which I eventually bought. You can't see it, it's right off the camera, but it's up here. I'm gonna explain to you the customer journey I went through to find this microphone. And then we're gonna talk about how the world of marketing has changed. Here's the big phrase for you. Here's the big phrase. That brand awareness, what we know as brand awareness, right? Brand awareness means that people buy based on brands, right? That's kind of our mindset, that people buy based on brands. But would you agree that the market has totally changed? People buy less on brand, and I'll prove it to you. How many times have you gone online to look for something and you wind up buying something that has nothing to do with the brand that you were looking for? It happens all the time. So what's happening is brand awareness, this is almost like old media. By old media, I mean, television, radio, and things of that nature. Today, because of the internet, because of all the content providers out there, basically what has happened is that we have a fragmented market where people are consuming product, information, content, video on different platforms. So the big media companies, like back in the day, there were 3 to 5 different channels where you can actually watch your news, right? And today, they're all over the place. You can go on the internet, find all these different content source providers. So what's happening now is that we're moving away from brands as being the reason why we buy something. Now, I'm not saying brands are not important. They just don't have the impact that they used to have, let's say 40 years ago, maybe even 30 years ago. There was a study done by CEB that when they looked at, when it came to customer loyalty, brand awareness only impacted 19% of actual loyalty. So brands are not as important anymore because what's happening is we live in a society now where almost every product is a commodity. And if they're not a commodity, they're almost at parity, which means they offer the same thing. So it's hard to tell which one's which. We've talked about that, right? So I started asking myself, as I was looking for the microphone, I started asking myself, well, how did I find my microphone? How did I find this microphone up here, which I'm in love with, by the way? And I want to describe to you what's happening in the market, how people are searching for things. And then if we understand how people are searching for things, then maybe we can figure out how we can market to them more effectively and bring people into our proverbial funnel. So let's take a step back. Let me just erase this. Let's take a step back and try to understand what's happening in the market. So using me as an example, I begin with the problem. My microphone had a hiss. It just had a hiss, right? That was the trigger. So step number 1 in any process is there has to be a trigger. Now this is important because, there have been books written on triggers, and trigger is something that happens that forces you to actually want to make a change or do something. In selling, for example, if you're talking to a client and the client's coming to you because they have a problem, the trigger was that problem. Now, it's always interesting for us as salespeople to understand what motivated you to pick up the phone and call or get online and chat with me, right? What motivated? What was the trigger? And I want you to think about your selling situation. When your customers come to you, what's their trigger? What triggered them into the search mode, which is the second step. So for me, the problem was it was too much hiss noise on my microphone. So I would hear this. So I began the search, and I'll zoom into the board so you can see it. And so when I started looking for my products, the first thing I did is I went to YouTube. This is obviously YouTube, right? So I began my search, believe it or not, I began my search on YouTube, not Google, although Google owns YouTube, right? So I began here, and so now, if you think about it this way, I'm starting my search. I need a microphone. I need one that doesn't make a lot of noise, right? So I do the Google YouTube search, and then I go through some of these videos. I read best microphones for content creators, right? Best microphone for recording vocals at home. I don't sing, so that's not for me. This is if you're into gaming, right? So I said to myself, I'm not getting the content I want. I would watch some of these videos. I go, it's not what I want. So then I said, I got to refine my search. So initially I looked for this was a search term. I typed best microphones for videos. That's what I typed into YouTube. So then what I had to do, since I wasn't getting what I wanted, I said, let me refine my search. And now I used the keyword, low noise microphone for videos. Got a totally different set here. Now, I'm showing you things you already know, but bear with me. I'm going somewhere, right? So here we said microphone, self-knowing is a big deal, right? Picking up the perfect microphone, right? And then this one caught my attention. Dynamic versus a condenser. What's the difference? I don't know, right? And so I started watching these different videos. Diety versus a Rode microphone. So I started watching all these different videos. And again, as I'm watching them, as I'm learning, my preferences are beginning to form. In other words, I'm starting to get an idea of what I want. I'm going through this whole search funnel thing like, okay, let me figure out what I want. And so I start out very broad, right? Microphone for videos. Then I start zooming in and I ask myself a different question. Give me low noise microphone. From here, I can probably go, what's condenser versus, cardio microphones or whatever it may be. And I can start just searching and looking for different items. And then I go here, and let me erase this again so you can see it. And then I type in a different search. Again, this time I go to Google, right? So think about it. I'm on YouTube. I'm not getting what I want. It's too confusing. Let me go back to Google. I go back to Google, and then 17 best shotgun microphones. At this point, I had decided I wanted a shotgun mic. Now, remember, there's 3 types of microphones. One is a desktop mic, right? Another one is a lapel mic, right? You learn this on your search. And then the other one is a shotgun mic, which is very directional, shoots right at you, right? Picks it up, very directional, great for interviews. And then as I was doing my search, what began to happen is that certain things begin to kind of reappear. In other words, I kept seeing the same ones over and over again. Let me see if I can use a highlighter for this one. And so the one I kept noticing that kept coming up was this one right here, a Sennheiser, right? And I'll zoom in on that so you can see it. So now, again, I'm starting to narrow my search, right? So I go to Google. It's starting to show me top 10 deals right here. And the more searching I do, the more I keep reviewing things. I keep coming around the top 3 being the same. The Rode, the NTG, the Sennheiser was another one, and the Audio-Technica was one that also came up. So now I'm starting to kind of hone in on what I want. So then what I then did is, what was next step? Which is to what? Look at the price, right? And so I looked at this one right here, and this is again, a Rode. I wanted a condenser mic as opposed to a dynamic one. And then I looked at the price, $699, right? Isn't this what your customers do? They do the search, they search for things, and little by little they start narrowing down. So I narrowed it down to 2. So I looked at that one, and then, by the way, have you ever noticed that when you're using Google, Amazon, it always what? Gives you recommendations. I'm going somewhere. Gives you recommendations. So these are different microphones, and I started looking at some of these, and I looked at a couple of these. This is $299. I like that one. This is $314. And then I would go back and do a search on that one, another search review on that one, but I still kept coming back to the 2 I just mentioned. So at the end of the search, it came down to this other one. This is a Sennheiser MK16. This one is $997, a little more. Reviews, all 5 stars. And this is the one that kept also showing up. So now I have a decision to make. right? And the decision is, which of these two am I going to buy? My question to you is, which one would you buy, right? And I know you can't see it, but so this one right here is $9.97, obviously. And again, it has 44 ratings. This one has like 700 ratings. And at the end of the day, I got to be honest, I chose, you're probably going to guess which one I chose. I chose that one right there, the $9.97, the Sennheiser one. And so on the Sennheiser one, that was my final choice. Now, this is a process that took like 3 or 4 years. By the way, they gave you a beautiful case that goes with it with the Sennheiser. What I loved about this microphone, the 416, by the way, if you're looking for a great shotgun microphone, I'm telling you, this thing, it's like you don't hear anything. I mean, it's just quiet. They even give you the noise pattern for the actual microphone. The show was tested. And although I know what you're thinking, Victor, you spent $1,000 on a microphone. The answer is yes, I did. Because either you're all in or you're not in. And that was the one that kept coming back with the best rating. There were a couple of others. There were some that were like 2,000. There was one that was like 3,500. I'm like, okay, that's a little too much. But I got to tell you, this Sennheiser up here, it's a beast. And so I love this thing. So I'm sharing this whole process with you because what we're seeing in the market today is how marketing has changed. See, most customers are making up their mind, going on a journey by themselves, consuming content before they even talk to the company. In this case, I didn't even need to talk to the company. I just made the decision to actually buy the product. Now, how does this all apply to sales and traffic? Here it comes. All right, all that was to get to this one slide right here. Yes, this empty slide I'm about to show you. Now, this concept I'm about to show you right now, I think it's a very powerful concept if you get it. And it's also going to drive how you develop content and how do you drive traffic to your website. So what typically happens is you start with a question, and the question is, I need to get a better microphone, right? And so keep in mind that I start right here with, I'll just call it my first set of questions. We're going to call that my set of questions 1. Why do I call it the first set of questions? Is like, it could be as simple as, I need a low noise microphone. Low noise, right? I need it to be either a stand or a shotgun. And so where would I find it? Where do I search? Where do I search? So forth and so on. And so what happens is I start my search here at the top of the funnel, right? And then what happens, as I do my research, I move towards this end of the funnel right here, and I review whatever information, content is out on the internet, right? I review the content. And so when I review the content, again, what I'm doing is going through a process of reviewing it, and again, evaluating, right? But you know what happens is I review, I learn, and I evaluate. What then happens? I got more information, so now I come back down here, and now I have a new set of questions. Now I'm going to ask a totally different set of questions. Like before, I wanted to find out what are some of the best low noise microphones that you can find out there. Now I'm here. What's the difference between a condenser, cardioid, and different type of microphones, right? What are the differences here? A dynamic microphone, condenser microphone. So now I'm asking about dynamic, I'm asking about condensers, I'm asking about cardioids, all these different microphones, and I can have 3 or 4 questions there. And what's going to happen again is I'm going to come here, I'm going to learn some more, and then what's going to happen again is I'm going to learn some more here, again, do some reviews, and then I'm going to come here and I've learned certain things. But then I'm going to come back down here, and now my questions again are now going to be more what? Focused. As I go down this decision funnel, that's really what this is, a decision funnel, I'm basically sharpening my questions because my preferences are being formed. When I get to 3 here, I might want to decide about what's my price range? How much do I want to pay, right? What's my price range? Other questions, is there a warranty, right? Is there a warranty associated with these, right? And then I can look at the reviews. What do the reviews say? Question mark. That's my third set of questions. I'm going to look at the reviews. Again, I'm going to learn some more again, and I'm going to ask my final set of questions, question set number 4, before I make the actual what? Buying decision. Now, what's interesting about this simple model, and I'm using the microphone as an example, is that this is what's happening today when it comes to marketing. And in many cases, this process of developing questions you got to ask. First of all, there's the trigger. What was the trigger in my case? The microphone was making too much noise. It was really bothering me. Then I started to search, right? I started to search. Once I start to search, and so let me put this in red so you can kind of see the whole process. If you're going to break this apart, it all begins with the trigger, right? Let's go start with the trigger. Something happened that forces you to start looking for something. It forces you to start looking for something. Then you begin what I call, you start searching. This is the obvious one. Searching makes you then aware of what's available out there. And as you're narrowing down, you begin to consider. This is the consideration phase. On the consideration phase, now you're really starting to define things. And then once you get to the consideration phase, maybe the last step could be just purchase, or one more final review before you go in. And this is the sequence that most people go through. There's the trigger. They begin the search. They become aware of the options. They then look at they start considering different options that are available before they decide on the final price before they contact you. Now, what does all this have to do with selling? It has everything to do with selling. If you buy this model, which looks a little messy right now, these are the 5 stages people go through before making a buying decision, right? 5 stages. First, there's a trigger, begins the search, creates awareness, what's available in the market. Then the consideration piece kicks in. What do I like? What do I don't like? Start narrowing my choices, then I buy. That's how it works in today's market. Whether it's B2B or B2C, you see this similar pattern. But what's also happening is that as they're going through this process, if I can highlight this right, they're asking different sets of questions. At each stage, they're asking different sets of questions. Again, different sets of questions all the way through, right? Up here, more general, getting very specific as they get closer to making a buying decision. Now, why is this important in selling? If you haven't figured it out already, here it is. If we try to understand what questions are people first asking, well, first of all, let's try to understand the trigger. Let me ask you, in your business, what type of triggers exist in your business? Hit me on the chat. What type of triggers exist in your business? What triggers somebody to start buying something or look for your product? Give me some ideas. What are some triggers in your business that you see? Simple triggers. What are some triggers? Give me some ideas. I'm going to list them out right here. What are some triggers? Things that trigger people to begin a search. It could be for any product. Think of your product or service and then ask yourself, how is it that people start searching? Why do they start searching my product or service? Somebody says health. So maybe something started going wrong with their health. So we got, let me pull some of these up here. Let me see if I can get a blank sheet up here. Hold on a second. So we got health. Vincent said health could be one. Could be a health issue, right? That triggers them to search. The other is, Brian says, it's a product failure. Something went wrong with the product. Got to go there. Someone called a baby girl a baby boy. Okay. Back pain or leg pain. That triggers the search for something. When something's not reliable, water quality problem, you guys get the idea. New requirements for their customers. The old machine, Juka says, is breaking down. Low quality of food. Ease of use. Maybe if something is too difficult, they need something easier. So these are all triggers. Something breaks. Duncan says something breaks. Rod's going a little negative on me with divorce. That could be it. And by the way, very real, right? That's an emotional trigger right there. Savings, urgency. Give it a little more, Diesel. What's urgent? Like what happened? Or how about this one? Irene says in debt. Somebody realizes, my debt is out of control. I need to change, right? These are triggers, right? In business, you see that your margins are shrinking. You're like, we need to do something. So this is the first step, the triggers. Now, upgrade from new technology. Somebody says, Ramesh says service. I like that. Steve has an interesting, Portillo has, a tree fell on their house. Definitely a trigger, right? Definitely. That's a very urgent. This is an interesting. Herb says, keeping up with the Joneses. Sometimes you see what other people have, and that might kind of create this need to kind of try to keep up with them. Juka says, new features. You guys get it, right? So there are different triggers. So now, if we know what the triggers are, right? So first level, we know what the triggers are. So for your business, is it important to know what the trigger is? As salespeople, one of the things we should always ask is, what triggered you to call me? What triggered you to come to us? What triggered you to search, whatever it may be? Because if we understand the trigger, then we're going to be able to sell more effectively to resolve whatever issue or problem they're having. But now, let's say we don't talk to the customer. Because sometimes the customer is 70, 80%, even in some cases 90% into the buying cycle that they don't even call us, right? They're so far into the buying cycle. Let me be clear about this. So if the customer journey begins here, and by the time they buy, let's call that point Z, sometimes they'll ramble all over the internet looking for information, consuming information, much like I showed you in the funnel. And then somewhere here, when they're, let's say, 90% ready to make a decision, they just have a few questions left, then they'll pick up the phone, that's a phone, right? And they'll call, right? But all this time, they've been making decisions on their own. Their preferences have been forming, and you have no interaction with them. And this is kind of like a reality today. You're seeing a lot of customers go solo on the customer journey. This is something we need to start paying attention to, the customer journey. And we know that the customer journey has a lot of twists and turns, right? Because it'll be like, again, YouTube, LinkedIn, Facebook, Google, whatever it may be, and they're bouncing all over the place. So what can we do? If we know that the customer is doing all this by himself, but they're not contacting us, do you see the problem? Do you see the problem in selling today? A trigger's happened. We don't know. It's like a tree falling in the forest. We don't know, right? So there's a trigger, right? And then they begin their search. The question is, how do they find you? And this is an important question. How are they finding you? So if you go back to the funnel I just showed you, I showed you the funnel, the decision funnel they use before they make a buying decision, right? And I said, when a trigger happens, they have level 1 questions, right? What are the first questions your customers are asking when they begin their search? Have you ever thought about this? Like, list out what questions do people ask themselves when they begin a search? I had a microphone, it's got too much noise, right? So I need a low noise microphone for video. That's a question I have at the top level. We can talk about other problems with microphone, but that's a big one, right? Too much noise on the line. That's a big one. Now, what if you analyze your triggers or what triggers people to call you? And what if you started listing out, the different questions they ask? You list out the different questions they ask. Then, in these questions, there are probably some key words like low noise, right? In my example, it would be like low noise. Let me zoom in. It would be like low noise. The other one could have been, I want a shotgun microphone. I'm looking for a shotgun versus, let's just say, a desktop microphone, right? And the third option could be, I don't know. I have to think of something, but the other one could be low profile. In other words, not bulky, very small, not huge, right? Not a big one, right? So now, if I know that these are the initial questions that customers have when they begin their search, then what I am saying to you is, if I know what the level 1 questions are, right when they're beginning the search, right when the search begins, could I create content with these keywords in mind? Because where did I go look for my content? I went to YouTube and I went to Google. Now, what if you created content that had these keywords in them, whether they're articles, videos, whatever it may be, even a podcast, but it would have answers to these questions? Clients would begin to find you online because these are the folks, people who understand this game here, who understand what the customers are searching for, the keywords that they're searching for, understand that if they get them early in the search process, they can shape their preferences towards their own product. Said another way, if you're finding content that I posted, then you're more likely to agree with my point of view because I'm sharing what I know. And if you start talking about why your product is the best early on in the search, you stand a better chance of people visiting your website and maybe even making the purchase. Now, second level here, once I did this, I now was aware of what was in the market. Now I'm aware of what's in the market. I'm becoming aware of the different options. So now I'm asking myself another set of questions. And what if I created content around those sets of questions? And so forth, Q3, on consideration, right? And on the purchasing one, it could be all about pricing, right? and comparative pricing, one versus another one. What if you develop content today? If you're not driving a lot of traffic to your website, you're not getting a lot of high qualified buyers, quality leads at your website, maybe what's happening is that you can use pay-per-click. I was reading a study that talked about Google's pay-per-click. And it was amazing that the click-through rate on some of these, or the conversion rate, I should say, was less than 2%. Less than 2% on the paid ads. Think about that. So pay-per-clicks, some people say it's effective. Again, I know people who are making it work, but this is a study based on, I forgot how big the size was. I think it was like 5,700 companies. And the conversion rate was 2%, if not less. Now think about that. So pay-per-click doesn't work. What's working today is organic searches. In other words, somebody types in the keywords and they find your content organically. It's not a paid advertisement. So think about that. Google Trends helps me a lot with this. So by the way, Jared said Google Trends will give you what words trend well for a specific product or specific service. So you can use tools like that to figure out what are the keywords. And that's a valid approach as well. But what I am asking you is to really think about what questions, that's the big thing for tonight. What questions are your customers asking you through the 5 stages? What questions are they asking themselves, rather, through the 5 stages? And then, can we build content that answers those questions? Because if they start finding our content repeatedly, they're more likely to come to us. One of the questions I get about my sales training and my sales training programs is, hey, Victor, do you get a lot of people calling in? Yes, right? Get people who call in. Email me, whatever it may be. But here's the interesting thing is, if I look at my close rate, I don't know, I think lately it's like 90%. My close rate is 90%. Now, I like to tell you that I'm a great salesman, right? I think that's part of it, but not the whole truth, right? The reality is that when they began their search, what was the trigger? Their sales have fallen. People don't know how to sell virtually. Right? That's the big one today, right? Said, Victor, the one I get, my salespeople don't know how to engage via video. Can you help me? And usually they say something like this. I've seen your content online. I've seen your sales after dark, so forth and so on. I know you know how to do it. Now think about this. Think about this. This is important. They had the trigger. The trigger was our salespeople are not closing or engaging online. Right? They're not closing enough deals, and because they're not closing, it's because they're not engaging. And they don't know how to engage online because some are technophobic, right? So not closing, virtual selling, very tough, engagement, very difficult, technology, I don't know what pieces to use. These are questions that they're having. So the manager goes online and says, I need to find a trainer. First set of questions is sales trainer on virtual selling. Sales trainer on virtual selling, or something like that, remote selling, social distance selling, no-touch selling, which is my program. And all of a sudden, they find my stuff. And then what begins, they find my stuff, they find other people's stuff as well, right? And now, as they're doing the search, they're moving gently into the awareness. They know who's out there, who's available. And now they start looking more online for credibility. They start looking at the number of videos they've done, right? The content that they're putting out. So now they're narrowing their focus. But notice they haven't called me yet. And somewhere down here, when they get close to the purchase, right after once they've done consideration, that's consideration right there. In other words, they considered they're aware of all these options. Now they're considering 2 or 3. All this, considering now 2 or 3. And then if I'm one of the 2 or 3, I'm going to get the call. They're not going to purchase. The close for me is the call. The email saying, can we connect? And then I'm able to close the deal 90% of the time. But again, my closing is based on the fact that they've gone through this whole customer journey and they found my content. Now, if you study my content online, you'll now understand how I drive traffic to my videos. Because what happens is my search terms, the titles of my videos, are specifically designed that if somebody types in a specific term or phrase, they'll find one of my videos. Get the idea, right? Like, how do you become a great salesperson? Type that one in, see if you find me, right? I always say how to block objections. People always want to know, how do you block objections? Type that into your search engine, you'll find me. And so I've learned that by using these questions, figuring out what questions people are asking, if you understand what questions they're asking, then you reverse engineer your content. And if you can reverse engineer your content, you're going to drive more traffic to your website. And that, I had somebody ask me last week, said, Victor, how do you generate traffic? You can pay for it, or you can generate it organically. Again, various strategies. This is one. The big takeaway here is that in today's market, there is a trigger that you're unaware of. Your customer has just been triggered. And then immediately, they're not going to call you. They're going online to begin their customer journey. And that customer journey is all about finding the right content that they're looking for to help them solve that specific problem. And if you can put yourself between the trigger, right, and the final decision by providing content that they're looking for, again, it could be a blog, it could be an article, it could be a vlog, it could be a short video, it could be a live stream, it could be a podcast. What is your content? But keep in mind that creating content is one thing. Creating content to answer questions that your potential client has is the trick. That's the slight subtlety here. A lot of people just create content, but to create content to answer questions that your customers will experience during that customer journey, that is the future of sales and marketing. And that is all I wanted to talk to you about tonight. I kept that one very short, I think. Yeah, that was not bad. That was pretty short. So anyway, questions from you guys. I see we got some people in the house. All right, man, let me pop in. Put the glasses back on. New build innovations. Your sound quality is excellent, so I think you made an excellent choice with the microphone. It's a nice microphone, man. And like I said, to me, this whole thing matters. In the world of virtual selling, your frame is everything. And this is what I mean by your frame, what people see. And so you need to take care of the frame. Let me see. Sorry, Victor, I'm late from Cleveland. Pete, hey, man. Late is better than not showing up. By the way, if I missed your comment, I got a lot of comments coming in. So, in your specific area, hola, Pete. Hi, Brian. You guys haven't? Okay, cool. Book recommendation about this subject. There's a book called The Contextual Marketing Revolution. Look it up. The Contextual Marketing Revolution. That's the closest book I've found to it. But I got to be honest. I like the book. I'm not going to give it a strong recommendation, Juka. I'm not. I just can't do it. Sorry. That's why I'm not showing you the book. I can't. I think it's a good book. It's a good starter book. But if you really want to learn about this stuff, I would start typing in things like customer journey. That would be it. I would start researching customer journey. I'm not going to hard recommend that book. I think it was a good book. It did not pass my 100-page test. Now, if you don't know what the 100-page test is, I read a book, and if after 100 pages I'm just not in, I just basically chuck it. I give it away. And I actually gave it to my daughter, by the way. She says, is it interesting? I say, well, you might like it. So I gave it to her. So it did not pass my 100-page test, which means I read 100 pages. If I'm not hooked, I get rid of the book. I stop reading it. That's how my brain works. So can't do it, man. Is that too honest? Let me know. Carol Parker, thank you very much. Always great content. Thanks a lot. I also love your answer when Grant asked you the difference between selling and closing. You said closing gives you money. Yeah, you're talking about my interview with Grant Cardone. Yeah, I think he was stunned by my answer. He was like, I can tell he was taken aback. One makes you money, the other one doesn't. I think is what I said to him. Again, good dude, man. I like him. I think he has a lot of great content as well. I think he's undervalued. I think because of his bravado, which is just part of his personality, but he's a super nice guy. And like I said, I think he has good content. Fantastic. I think of a funnel as a bottle. When they take a drink, a sale, they'll want more. Hey, man, could be herb, could be. That's one way of looking at it. Jay Lerber, hello from Dallas. Love your videos, Victor. Jay, man, thank you for joining us. I think is this your first time, Jay? Let me know. And welcome aboard. Sparrow's Tail. All right. Hey, Victor, how do I use humor effectively to get people interested in my stuff without coming off corny or forced? Man, humor is like a tricky thing, man. I think, and there's a difference, Sparrow's Tail. There's humor and there's being funny. You don't want to be funny. You just want to have a sense of humor. And I think, don't ever tell jokes. That's always a horrible idea, right? Telling jokes is a horrible idea. So I'll tell you what you shouldn't do. Tell jokes. I think, humor is all about, to me, it's about storytelling. People want to hear, little stories. So I always inject humor with stories. And so there's a way of setting up a story, but it's got to feel natural and flow very naturally from you. So if the customer's talking about let's say, a bad experience, you can just say, I can relate to that. I said, let me share this one with you. And then I always keep the stories very short because there's a rule. If the story is long, there better be a big payoff. So I try to keep them very short, very quick to the point. And so I can't give you any rules for humor. I would just say, I got to tell you this though, my favorite comedian is, by the way, if you have a favorite comedian, I want to know who your favorite comedian is. If you have a favorite comedian, type them in. I want to know who your favorite comedian is. This is my guy right here. This is my guy. I love this guy. I love Bill Burr. I just love watching Bill Burr. Total tangent, but we'll go with Sparrow's Tales here. The reason I like Bill Burr is if you really study Bill Burr, it's like he has a way of setting up a story, making it funny without doing a lot of work, and it always has a great ending. His ability to create a storyline is just amazing. I mean, I think he's just brilliant. Good stuff. Hey, Marshall, thank you very much. Rod, all right, appreciate it, Victor. Assuming content is next to none, assuming content is next to none, how do you get and drive up exposure when then the answers match customers' questions perfectly? So assuming content is next to none, so in other words, there is no content, how do you get and drive up exposure even when the answers match customers' questions perfectly? But the thing is, you can create content. I think there's this, and I don't know if this is where you're going, Rod, but when I look at content creation, a lot of people just, want to know what you know. You know your product well, so why don't you share your perspective, whether it's a podcast or a video or a small mini article or even simply a blog post like on LinkedIn or something. Anything that is searchable, I think, is valid. But you'd be amazed. Sometimes people get locked up. I was having a conversation with my daughter today, and she says, I say, how do you write articles, and how do you make them, effective and stick? And I go, I just tell a personal story, and then I give, I say, here's my situation, because it's the structure for an article. Here's the situation, here's what I found, here's how it applies to you. Here's the situation, here's what I found during my research, here's how it applies to you. That's my formula for creating a story. An article doesn't have to be long. Look at Seth Godin, the marketing genius. Sometimes his blogs are just like 50 words. And I bet you those things, if you search on them, you'll find them. So find a way to create content, Rod. I think and like I said, I'm not saying go out of your way and just, spend time now becoming a content machine. But my point is that people are going online and they're searching by themselves without you, the salesperson. And I think that it's not so much that this is where the future of marketing is going. This is where we're at right now. And a lot of us aren't even aware that this is actually going on. So again, content creation is going to be king. That's why marketing plays a bigger role. Cheryl Cham says, great content. Thank you. Appreciate that. Thanks for all the info, Vic. Alfredo, thank you very much. Alfredo V. Victor, could share your thoughts on using your prospects' objections for content ideas. Boom, there it is. So excellent point. So if there's some pushback that you're getting from your customers, per Steve Grady, marketing genius extraordinaire, that if there's some objections that you always get, I would create content answering those objections. Like whether it's you're too expensive or maybe your product doesn't do this, or I heard this system is better than your system. Again, these are objections you're going to get. Might as well deal with them. And think of content creation, as Steve is pointing out, as almost like blocking an objection. Because the customer might have an objection, but when they come across that video, they're going to say, oh, so I was thinking wrong. And again, this is part of the preference formation, forming their mindset, their preferences as they're searching through content. Great point, Steve. Thank you very much, man. Appreciate that. Also, love it, Victor. What business would you start up today? Any business that makes me money, man. JM, that's such a general question, man. I would start something that I would feel good and passionate about, but also that would make me money. It's always that balance, right? Those two things, man. Value-centric selling, number 10, buying process. This topic covered in depth in his Sales Velocity Academy, a must-have for sales professional. Thanks, Victor, for the great content resource. If you haven't joined the Sales Velocity Academy, that thing right there, you should join it. Again, the value-centric selling program is probably the biggest program I have in there. I think it's like 32, 35 videos. It's an extensive program that teaches you how to quantify value so you can position your value. And by the way, if you understand your value, and you understand the value of your product, there's so much content that you can create from that. Take that, create content from the features and benefits that you have, Take Steve's idea and create it from the objections your customers typically have, and then take the third part, which I mentioned, which typical questions are going to ask themselves during the search. Imagine if you had that constellation of content up online and people start finding your stuff. I think it'll be very effective. You'll make more money than Netflix soon. From your mouth to God's ear, Shrutesh, from your mouth to God's ear. And would you start with blogs or videos? I'm not a blog fan, JM. I used to write a lot of articles. I rather do videos and podcasts and live streams. So I'm very visual and audio or oral, right? So I would go those two. But I know a lot of people who love to read. So it's really what you're, it's a crapshoot sometimes because you don't know what people are going to consume. But you can do what I've done in the past, which is to take a podcast, right? I record an audio podcast for 10 minutes. I then take that podcast and I go to a website called, you've probably seen this website, right? Rev.com. Rev.com will take your 10 minutes and it'll convert it into a transcript, right? Letters typed out. And it's like $1 a minute. So a 10-minute podcast would cost you $10. And they would actually transcribe the whole thing. And then from that transcription, you can actually create a blog article. So you can have both of them if you use that approach. It's a good website. Check it out if you get an opportunity to do so. Great question, by the way. Thank you. First time on the live show, Jay Lerver, welcome. So Rod Victor likes Carrot Top. Good comedian, man. Victor, do you have a course on no-touch selling? Did we talk about this, Pete? I have like a 45, 1.5 hour webinar. Pete, send me an email directly, man, so I can hook you up, man, because I think you're in the Sales Velocity Academy, right? It's in the Sales Velocity Academy. If you can't find it, let me know, but it should be in there. The no-touch selling is all about, how do you put the offer today in front of a customer? How do you connect with customers? How do you engage with them? How do you build out your studio? I walk you through that piece. And then how do you read customers via video? That's a very interesting part of that whole program. So check that out. Michael McIntyre. So Duncan, you guys are talking. Aquafina is my I don't know who that is. Aquafina is my favorite comedian. I'll have to look that up. I don't know who. Gabriel, you like Fluffy. I'm not into Fluffy. I don't know why. He always says I'm fluffy. I'm not fat. I'm fluffy. Is that guy, right? I don't know, man. It's just I never connected with him. Norm Macdonald, dry sense of humor. I can tell there. The late great, yes, Patrice O'Neill, which was a very good friend of Bill Burr, right? They were great friends. Russell Peters and Fluffy. You too like Fluffy. I met Russell Peters. I met Russell Peters in Abu Dhabi, outside of Dubai. Real nice guy, man. So here's a classic. Okay, now we're getting into serious stuff. George Carlin. I mean, George Carlin is like, up there. I think, in my book, the most intelligent comedian that's ever graced a stage and a microphone, man. I think that's a good one. Thank you, Pete. By the way, thank you, man. Thank you. Joy Coy. I like Joy Coy also. I like him also, man. He has a different. Kevin Hart. Who doesn't like Kevin Hart, man? I got some good ones here. Hey, Victor. I'm in the medical. Let's get back to work here. We're messing around with comedians. Soon he's like, let's get back to work, Victor. Hey, Victor, I'm in the medical device industry where surgeons take a call on deciding procedures, right? Surgeons always zero down the cost. How to design content based on patient requirements or with the surgeon. So if I'm selling medical device in the medical industry where the surgeon takes a call and usually they're going to make the final decision, right? They're the ones going to use the tool, right? And so they always zero down to cost. I think that's true. I would push back a little bit that they might, everybody's always concerned about cost. But remember, a surgeon, these are tools that if they're very important tools to a surgeon, they'll pay a little more. So I would argue, without knowing much, I would push back and say, nah, if it's a tool that I use all the time, and I use this microphone as an example, I'd rather buy an expensive microphone that's going to cost me more. I could have gotten a $300 microphone, $400 microphone, but this is my job. This is what I use. This is my tool. I want the best of the best. Price wasn't an issue. Now, there were some prices that were beyond what I want to pay, like $3,500. That was just too much. That was like, I'm going to make a movie. I'm not going to go that far. So how to design content based on patient requirements or with surgeons. So let's say that you're going to create content around these medical devices. What I would start to do is, how would that device, first of all, let's think about a surgeon. When he's using that device, it might be, for example, if it's a hand tool, it might be weight and balance, right? Two different things, weight and balance, right? And so I would create content. How do you find a lightweight fill in the blank for your device? How to find a lightweight fill in the blank. And then weight, balance would be two different videos I would create. But also think about performance fatigue. And I'm making this up, but you'll get the idea. If this is a special tool I have, right? And it's a heavy tool and I'm using it all day, well, this is going to get tired and I'm not going to be able to perform as many procedures. But if I had a light, balanced tool and I can prove that and show that this tool, because it's lighter, in other words, other devices, like for dentistry, have the motor attached to whatever the device they're using. Our device has the motor detached and therefore it allows you more flexibility. It's not heavy, more precise, and and then I would create videos around that stuff. That's how I would do that. That's my high-level review of that one, man. All right, Victor, how would you conform this content-based method to enterprise sales? It's very similar, right? Because they go online and they're looking for what? Different type of products, right? So why would it be different? Why would it be any different? Whether you're B2B or B2C, you're still going online to look for content. You really are. Executives go online to look for content, to research things on their own, just to actually educate themselves. The question might be in this case, if I were to tailor this, is I would take the different profiles of people who are in it. For example, let me see if I can just do it like this, Sam. So, for example, if I have a CTO, a CEO, a CIO, right? And I'll just say a CFO, got to throw those in there. And you got all kinds of, you got a CSO, you got a CMO, you got a bunch of CMOs, right? Or COs, CXOs. So if I'm really targeting, let's say this is the ideal client persona. In other words, I know that if I can connect with a chief technology officer, I'm more likely to close the deal. So if it's an enterprise solution, and I know, let's kind of do it this way. I know if I connect with these and this right here, with these three people, I know that I will close the deal. So I will design content. For the CTO, it's about what? The tech specs, right? Is it upgradable, right? Is it upgradable? Is it expandable? Will it integrate well? Is there a long training cycle? Is there a long learning cycle? These are all things that the CTO is going to ask. The CEO is thinking about what I've always talked about, the value trinity, right? How is this going to help me increase revenue, reduce costs, or expand my market share? That's what I want. If you're talking to a CMO, they're thinking, how can I use this product or service to position our product or services in the market as a competitive edge? So now I have three profiles I'm aiming at, then I would basically create my content to serve those three profiles. So that's how I would attack it more specifically. Great question, Sam. Great question. Let me know if I answered that, Sam. I think I got it, but that's how I would do it. Appreciate it. I meant, how would you get more interest and eyeballs? Is it simply keywords or any tips and tricks that we can use to get that funnel filled with more people? I see what you're saying. The question you're asking is very difficult because it's let's say 10 years ago, easy 10 years ago, search engine optimization, right? Using, you can use keywords, you can use the keywords in the headline, you can use keyword density, which means how often you repeated the word, right? And then you can use keyword clouds to figure out what were the combination of keywords that would actually rank certain pages high. That's how it used to be. The problem is that people started gaming the system. By gaming the system is they started loading the pages with extra words and repeating the words over and over. What they call black hat tactics, right? And so now it's very difficult because, I read, it was one report, and I'm trying to get the number, that there were over like 150 different points, like a constellation, that the algorithms, this is all AI driven now, that the algorithms take into account that actually rank something high or low. For example, when I post this video, well, it'll post automatically, but there is a checklist I have to go through now. I don't have to go through it. They just recommend I go through this checklist, and it'll ask me, do you have a thumbnail, a picture, right? Do you want to create a unique thumbnail? Then they'll say, in order to rank high, you might want to add this to your playlist. You want to load these up with certain keywords or tags, and they'll suggest some, right? For example, on YouTube, I use something called vidIQ, like VIDIQ. And vidIQ will actually suggest keywords and tags that I should use for this topic. So I load those up, right? And then what else do I have to do? On the end screen, when the video ends, By adding an end screen, they give you more brownie points there. If you engage in the comment section, you get more brownie points. If you pin a comment to the top of your feed, right, after the video has been posted, that's it. They'll, again, more points there. If you heart a couple, believe it or not, if you heart some comments that you like, they'll give you some more brownie points. So there's so many ways that these things rank high. Nobody really knows. If anybody who says, I know this with certainty that you can do it this way, they don't really know. And so it's happened many times where I have a video that I swear wasn't going to rank high, and it just took off. And then I had a video, I go, this is it. This is the monster. This is the beast. And I put it out there and nothing. And so it's really hard. And so I don't think there's any tips and tricks. But keep in mind, Rod, if you're serious about your business, and if you're serious about positioning yourself as a trusted advisor, expert in that market, why not produce something small every day? It could be like, a 100-word mini article, right? Or maybe you can share content of something you've discovered within that industry, right? So you discovered within your industry, new regulations that'll help your consumers. Let's share that content. So sometimes you don't have to create the content, you can share. But then people start seeing you as that guy. That guy's Rod. Rod is the blank guy. When people can fill in that blank, they go, yeah, that's the guy that knows about that. That's when you know you've positioned yourself as a trusted advisor. Let me know if that helped a little bit, man. All right, Brian, can you give more details on interrupters or getting in between triggers and customer research that a salesperson can do outside of SEO strategies? What's SEO strategies again? Or marketing platforms, AKA blogs. I don't know what SEO is. Customer-oriented strategies? Can you give me more details on interrupters for getting in between triggers? So you mean after the trigger, right? Because you have to get after the trigger. So if we're looking at this, I think you're asking me is how to in between the trigger. So if here's the trigger, I'm not sure you can't, the trigger is going to be, that's a personal thing. That's going to happen personally, right? And so the customer is going to go on this search journey, was my point. And then eventually somewhere here, they're going to call you, right? They're going to call you. That's my iPhone right there. They're going to call you. And then maybe they're 90% into the buying cycle. So if you're asking, how do I get in here? There's so many ways of doing it. I mean, one of the things you saw seeing today, Brian, is people doing a lot of webinars. And the webinars are targeted at questions customers are actually asking. That's why the amount of webinars out there today is just incredible. But think about that. When you look at a webinar title, the smart people put in very carefully worded webinar titles because they want to attract the right people. So there's so many ways. I mean, you can put out graphics. Let's go through the list. You can put out graphics. You can put out videos. You can put out podcasts. You can do live streams. Again, you can do a webinar. You can do, I don't know, you can go on Facebook, do a live over there. There's so many things you can do to kind of get yourself in front of your customers. But again, don't exhaust yourself. Figure out 2 or 3 channels that you can do consistently. Like, for example, to me, I've mentioned this in the past, LinkedIn and YouTube are my channels. Everything else, don't want to slight Facebook or Twitch or anybody else or Periscope, but Facebook and LinkedIn, YouTube and LinkedIn are my 2 main channels. I create content for those 2 channels because I know those channels drive business to my website and eventually, let's say, for my Sales Velocity Academy or booking me for coaching or doing webinars. So let me know how I answered that for you, Brian. I don't know if I got that right, but because it's such a big question you're asking, I think. How do you create a great benchmark for sales team? Is it really necessary to compare it to competitors? In today's market, we're off subject here, Inkle, but there's so many ways you can develop a benchmark for sales teams. I think one of the things I find interesting is that, it's hard to compare yourself with other people, other companies, if you really think about it. But I was reading an article about Vanity Metrics. And I love the phrase Vanity Metrics, right? It's like a vanity, and I'm just going to talk out loud right now, and then, Inkle, you tell me if this makes any sense to you. A vanity metric, which is versus real metrics, right? Or real KPIs. Let's just say real KPIs. And the article was talking about, let me just put this down here. The article was talking about like a vanity metrics is something like, for example, number of visitors to your website, right? Number of page views, right? Number of page views, right? These are what they call vanity metrics. Now, again, they're good metrics, But the problem is they don't tell anything about what's going on. For example, number of visitors. Well, we don't even know what the quality is. So having a large number of visitors, a demand generation strategy to get a lot of people in, doesn't mean that these visitors are actually qualified. So that metric could be almost useless. Number of page views, that could mean something, but maybe that's not really what you're looking for. Maybe the real metric is, number of downloads, right? It could be number of downloads. It could also be the minutes of a video that you have online. How many minutes did they watch? Did they watch 2 or 3? Did they watch 5? And so you're seeing this big debate between what are vanity metrics and what are real KPIs or real metrics. And so that's how I would answer that. Figure out what to measure, and it really depends on your business. What metrics do you want to measure? For example, if you're managing a sales team, I can measure the number of times you pick up the phone. That to me would be a vanity metric. But I would also track, a real metric would be, how many meetings were you able to set up? That to me is a more real metric, right? How many actual meetings did you actually hold with the customer would be the metric I would be concerned about. So let me know if that helps. Can you give me more details? I got that one already. Leon, good content. Victor, I learned something new tonight. I already know about using different platforms. Do I check my prospects? But what I learned tonight is that I should create content, and I should that they're asking for. Yeah, that's the thing is, what are they asking? I think that's it. I think that's the highlight of tonight. It's like, what questions are they asking themselves as they're going through the journey? And it would be an interesting challenge for you to come up with, I'll say 10 to 20 questions that they ask themselves. What questions? Just 10 to 20. 10 to 20 questions that they ask themselves. And then, what content could you create around that? Now imagine that if you have an email list and you created one of these pieces of content, you can actually do an email campaign to your clients, and they're going to like, oh, it's exactly what I was thinking about, and they'll resonate with that. It's such a simple strategy, but it's amazing how we don't think about it. But the key also is that, remember, it's not just generating 10 to 20 questions. That's the big part. But remember, they're in different stages throughout their actual buying process, right? So in the first one was, again, the trigger, then there's the what? They begin the actual search. Then they go to the next phase, awareness. Then they're in the consideration. They're starting to nail that. So each one has a different batch of questions. Now think about the consideration piece. When they're down to 2 or 3, maybe you can write an article as why our product compares better to other 2 top products in the market, or whatever it may be. So keep that in mind, that you change it as you go through the whole thing. Shrutesh, why people don't see the value we offer and end up making wrong decisions. Remember, when people don't see the value, Shrutesh, we need to take responsibility. We did something wrong in the presentation. We did not connect with them. We didn't grab them. Never blame the client for not understanding your value. Blame yourself in a good way, that you need to find a way to connect with them and then get them to buy in. So again, take responsibility. Brian says, George Carlin, got it. We got, here, hold on a second. I got this pulled up. Zakir Khan and a few others from India. I don't know who Zakir Khan is. I think I shall look him up, though. Thank you very much. SCV main page, new header to the no touch selling. It is on the top header, right? That's what I thought. Okay. By the way, we're referring to the Sales Velocity Academy, that the no touch selling program should be in there. So again, Pete, if it's not in there, let me know. Ronald says, what's up? What's up to you, man? Right back at you. Rod is back again. Rod, helped indeed. Appreciate it. How would you do, let's be honest with myself test and evaluate what you're really good at that would get people interested, engaged in regards to your video content? Let me read that again because I got to, helped indeed. Appreciate it. How would you do, let's be honest with myself test, let's be honest with myself, and evaluate what you're really good at that would get people interested, engaged in regards to your video content? Are you talking about yourself, Rod? If you're asking about, like, you got to be honest with yourself, what you're good at, I would agree. If you're not good at writing, don't write. Again, do a podcast, transcribe it, and then kind of write it that way. So I don't really know what you're asking me. So if you could hit me up again, I'll go for it. I used Mountain Nut Video for training fundraisers for 3 years and found it an incredible resource for handling concerns and rejections and taking them to yes moments. I love it, Matt. No money, no time, no need, no urgency, trust. And usually the money, urgency, and trust the need, urgency, trust. The nut part, I think, is always the most important part. So thank you for that, Matt. Appreciate it. And if you haven't seen that video, you should look it up. Just type in Mount Nut, Victor Antonio. You'll find it, man. You're welcome, man. Matt, thank you. Yes, get in before the 90% point. Webinars, live streams, etc. LinkedIn and YouTube are also great ideas. I think so, man. Ankle. And then we're going to start wrapping up here. Love your answer, man. Meeting is best than just number of phone calls. I also love your content, the triggers on selling cars visually. Yeah, man. Thank you, man. I appreciate that. All right, we've been on here more than an hour. So let me do my final thoughts, man, because I want to make sure you guys got the final thoughts. So again, what's happening in the market now is that marketing is now taking a more prominent role in the sales process. Really, marketing and sales, this is what we're seeing, right? And so what I want you to start thinking about is if somebody is triggered by something, they're triggered, they're not going to call you. They're going to begin their journey online. This is a big shift. It's a huge shift. They're going to begin their journey online. And if they're going to begin their journey online, are you there? And if you're not there, if your content's not there, then you're simply not going to be top of mind, right? And so this shift in how people search, it's not even a shift. It's been around for quite a while now. Let's just say the last 5, 7, maybe 10 years. But that's how people are buying. But the big point for tonight is people go through several stages of searching, right? Trigger, again, do the search. There's the awareness, there's the consideration, and then there's finally the purchase, right? Different phases. But they're also asking themselves, as I mentioned already, different sets of questions. And if you can, again, take those questions, and by the way, not just only create content with them, keep in mind that if they're asking themselves these questions, it's also good for you to use during your presentations when you're finally talking to the customers, because you're going to be in their head. You're going to be thinking with them. You're going to be understanding them because you understand these questions that they typically ask themselves. So that's what's happening in the market today. The customer journey and the customer experience. Words you're going to hear often now. The customer journey, how do they arrive? And by the way, every customer journey is very personal and very unique. So nobody searches for the same content or consumes the same content. People approach from different angles. But again, how do we meet them online? And so if you got a small business right now and you're really trying to get more exposure, give that some thought. And that's all I have to say. By the way, check out the Sales Velocity Academy and do the subscribe thing right here. If you like this content, as always, do me a favor, share it with at least one person. That's all I'm asking you to do. Share it with one person. And I think I got some other stuff here. Okay, we're signing off. Anyway, guys, thank you again for joining me on the Sales After Dark. We will see you Tuesday. I still don't know what the topic is for Tuesday, but we'll make it happen. We'll make it great. This is Victor Antonio, always reminding you, selling ain't hard when you know how. Take care, guys.